Ready for a history rewrite. Imagine a place, long thought of as just an empty canvas, turning out to be like a bustling city thousands of years ago.
That's Kach Kouch, right. The first Bronze Age settlement they've found in North Africa's Maghreb region.
Exactly. It's like stumbling upon a hidden room in an ancient house, totally packed with clues about the past.
And what clues they are.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into two research articles today.
Ooh, yeah, two different perspectives. I love it.
One is straight from the source, the University of Barcelona, announcing the discovery, and the other one, a super detailed report in the journal Antiquity, laying out all the fascinating details.
Perfect combination. So what's our mission for this deep dive?
Well, it's all about uncovering the secrets of Kach Kouch, right? Trying to understand what this place tells us about life in the early Mediterranean, how it changes our view of things.
Because for a long time, we thought the Maghreb was like a historical blank slate until the Phoenicians showed up around 800 BC.
Right. But Kach Kouch throws a wrench in that whole idea.
Big time.
The site dates back way further, to 2200, 600 BC. We're talking a full 1,000 years before the Phoenicians.
Wow. So Kach Kouch shows us an active, thriving community way earlier than anyone thought possible.
Oh, absolutely. It's like picturing the pyramids being built in Egypt, and at the same time, this community is flourishing in North Africa.
So let's paint a picture of life in Kach Kouch. What did researchers actually find there?
Well, it's a story that unfolds in phases, really. We've got phase one, the earliest period, from 2200 to 2000 BC. But this one, it's a bit of a mystery still. There's limited evidence.
So the early days are still shrouded in a bit of mystery.
A little bit, yeah. But here's the thing. It lines up perfectly with a big shift happening across the Strait of Gibraltar, over in Iberia.
Interesting. What was going on over there?
They were transitioning from the Copper Age to the Bronze Age. So it makes you think, even back then, were people sailing across the Mediterranean, exchanging ideas and goods.
Oh, so even in its earliest days, Kach Kouch might have been connected to this wider world. Fascinating. But what about phase two? What makes that period stand out?
Phase two, that's where things get really interesting. It spans from 1300 to 900 BC, and it's when a proper agricultural community takes root at Kach Kouch.
So not just passing through anymore, they're settling down, building a life.
Exactly. Imagine this. Houses built with walls woven from branches and then plastered with mud. It's a technique called wattle and daub.
Wattle and daub? I can practically see those houses now.
And then they have these rock-cut silos, perfectly designed for storing grain. And of course, grinding stones for processing it. It paints such a vivid picture of what life was like.
It does. They sound super resourceful, using the materials they found around them to build their lives. Okay, so they're farmers, but what were they actually growing?
Their main crops were barley and wheat, classic staples. But they also raised sheep, goats, and cattle. A real mix.
A classic yet sustainable way of life. It's amazing to think those practices were already in place over 3,000 years ago. But then comes phase three. What happens then?
From 800 to 600 BC, Kach Kouch enters a whole new era, an era of innovation. We start to see them embracing new technologies and ideas, stuff coming from the Eastern Mediterranean.
Ooh, so they're not isolated. They're interacting with other cultures, learning new things.
Precisely. Wheel-thrown pottery appears on the scene. Iron tools begin to replace the older ones made of stone and bone, and even their building techniques become more advanced. They start using stone in new and sophisticated ways.
It makes you wonder about those interactions. Who were they trading with? What stories were shared along with those goods and ideas?
Exactly. And it really challenges our old assumptions about cultural influence. It's not just a one-way street, with Kach Kouch passively absorbing everything.
Right, they're not just copying.
No, not at all. They're picking and choosing what works for them, adapting these new things to their own context. It's a much more dynamic process of cultural exchange than we used to think.
So it's not just about who's influencing who, it's about how different cultures are blending and shaping each other.
Exactly. It completely flips the script on how we think about cultural development in the ancient world.
But here's the million-dollar question. After thriving for over 1,500 years, Kach Kouch is suddenly abandoned around 600 BC. What happened?
That's the big mystery, isn't it? A real head-scratcher for the researchers. And there are some fascinating possibilities to explore.
Oh, I love a good mystery. I can't wait to dig into those possibilities and learn more about what life was really like for the people of Kach Kouch. Because they weren't just farmers, right? They were crafty tool makers. And they even had a taste for some early bling, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. We'll get into all those details.
I'm ready to dive deeper. Okay, so we're back, and I'm dying to know more about this mystery. Why did Kach Kouch get abandoned? It seems like they were doing so well for centuries.
Well, think about what else was going on in the Mediterranean around 600 BC. Remember those Phoenicians we talked about? Expert sailors, amazing traders?
Oh yeah, the Phoenicians, they were kind of all over the place back then, right?
Exactly. They were establishing themselves along the coastlines during this time. So it makes you wonder, could their arrival have something to do with what happened at Kach Kouch?
Oh, that's interesting. Could there have been competition for resources? Or maybe the trade routes shifted, making Kach Kouch less important?
It's definitely a possibility. But remember, the research really highlights how adaptable the people of Kach Kouch were. They were incorporating Phoenician technology, Phoenician ideas, blending it into their own culture.
True. It didn't seem like a hostile takeover or anything.
Not necessarily, no. So if it wasn't the Phoenicians, what else could have caused them to just leave a place they had built up for so long?
Yeah, what else?
Well, one theory is that there were big environmental shifts. Imagine a really bad drought lasting for years, or a change in the climate that messed up their farming.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. If you can't grow food, you can't survive.
Exactly. Those kinds of environmental stresses can be devastating to a farming community.
Right. Their whole life depended on the land and predictable weather patterns. So
Hmm.
a major change like that could have pushed them to find somewhere better.
Exactly. And the researchers haven't ruled that out at all. In fact, they're planning to do even more studies, examine the whole surrounding area, and look for clues in the environment.
So it's like a big puzzle, and we're still trying to put all the pieces together.
Exactly. It could have been a combination of things. The economy, the environment, maybe even social changes within the community itself. We just don't have the full picture yet.
It's like a historical detective novel, right? But even with some missing pieces, we've got a pretty good idea of what life was like in Kach Kouch. They were skilled farmers, crafty with their tools, and they even had a taste for the finer things, right?
Oh, absolutely. Even their diet tells a story. The research they did on the plants they found is really fascinating. They had a range of crops, hulled barley, those naked wheats that are similar to what we use for bread today, beans, peas. They even had grapes and olives later on.
Grapes and olives. Sounds like they were enjoying a Mediterranean diet way before it was trendy. What about their tools and craftsmanship? Any cool discoveries there?
Definitely. They made a variety of bone tools, including perforators, probably used for working with leather. They had chipped stone tools, all sorts for their daily tasks. And the grinding tools, some were huge, suggest they were processing a lot of grain.
Those grinding tools must have been impressive to see. It really shows you how important agriculture was to their way of life. But what about metalworking? Didn't they find something pretty special, something to do with bronze?
Ah, yes. This is where things get exciting. They found a tiny piece, a fragment of tin bronze, and it's the earliest they've ever found in North Africa, west of Egypt. It's been radiocarbon dated, and get this, it's from 1110 to 920 BC.
Wow, that's over 3,000 years old. So does this mean they were making bronze right there at Kach Kouch? Were they that advanced?
That's the question, isn't it? It's possible. But they need more evidence to be sure. This little piece they found, it could have been scrap metal, which would suggest they were working with bronze there, but it also could have come from somewhere else through trade. More research is needed.
Oh, so it's a clue, but not the whole story.
Exactly, but even so, just finding bronze at Kach Kouch is a huge deal. It tells us they were connected to broader networks of technology, aware of what was going on in the world.
It sounds like Kach Kouch was a complex society. Skilled farmers, crafty toolmakers, evidence of metalworking connected to this wider Mediterranean world. So that whole idea of an empty land, forget about it. Clearly, it was anything but empty.
Absolutely, and that's why Kach Kouch is so important. It forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about Bronze Age societies in the Mediterranean. It shows that North African communities were shaping their own destiny, not just passively taking in influences from elsewhere.
It's amazing how one archaeological site can change your entire understanding of the past. But why does all of this matter to us today? I mean, we're talking about a Bronze Age settlement on a completely different continent.
That's a great question. And I think Kach Kouch reminds us that history is never truly finished. New discoveries can change everything we thought we knew. It encourages us to question everything, to be open to new ideas and different perspectives.
It really makes you wonder what other hidden stories are out there just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. Kach Kouch is just one place, but it opens up a whole world of possibilities. It challenges us to dig deeper, explore further, and imagine a past that's far richer and more interconnected than we ever imagined.
It's a powerful reminder that there's always more to learn, more to discover, and we still have so much to learn about Kach Kouch itself. especially how it fits into the broader Mediterranean world. We've seen how Kach Kouch totally changes the old idea of the Maghreb being an empty land. It was a vibrant society, really sophisticated for its time. But like you said, there's a bigger picture here. How does Kach Kouch change how we understand the ancient Mediterranean world?
It's really interesting. Kit Couch challenges that traditional story we've been told, the one where the Mediterranean world was controlled by a few big, powerful civilizations.
Yeah, places like Egypt, Greece, the Near East. It's like they were calling all the shots.
Exactly. And everyone else was just on the sidelines, just taking in their culture, not really contributing much themselves.
It's like those places were the stars and everyone else was just kind of orbiting around them.
Exactly. But Kit Couch paints a totally different picture. It shows that North African communities, they weren't just passively receiving ideas, they were active participants in the whole cultural exchange thing.
So it's more like a web than a solar system. Lots
Yeah.
of connections going back and forth, everyone influencing each other.
Yes, exactly. A web, that's a great way to put it. And that web, it stretched way beyond the Mediterranean, too. Think back to that bronze fragment we talked about.
Oh yeah, the bronze.
That suggests they had connections with Atlantic Europe as well. It wasn't just a little village tucked away. Kach Kouch was part of a huge network of trade and interaction stretching across continents.
So it's not just a one-way street with culture flowing from east to west. It's more dynamic, more complicated than that.
Much more. We're seeing a real mix, a multi-directional exchange of ideas, goods, technologies. It makes you wonder, what else are we missing? What other stories haven't we uncovered yet?
Yeah, what else?
And that's what makes Kach Kouch so important. It forces us to rethink our assertions about how cultures grow, how they interact with each other. It reminds us that history is always more complex, more nuanced than we tend to think.
Kach Kouch is more than just an archaeological site. It's like a window into a whole different way of seeing the past. A past that's way more interconnected than we might have imagined.
It really is. And it makes you ask so many exciting questions for future research. I mean, if one site can change decades of thinking, what else is out there waiting to be found? What other hidden histories are buried, maybe right under our noses?
It's a good reminder that we're always learning, always discovering new things about the past. There's always more to uncover.
Exactly. And that's what makes these deep dives so interesting, so thought-provoking. Kach Kouch shows us that history isn't something static, something set in stone. It's a dynamic process. We're constantly discovering, interpreting, reinterpreting. And sometimes all it takes is one amazing site like Kach Kouch to change everything.
Well, as we come up for air from this deep dive into Kach Kouch, we'll leave you with this. What other hidden chapters are waiting to be written in the story of human history? What mysteries are still out there, even in places we think we know? Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep, because there's a whole world of knowledge out there just waiting to be discovered. This is The Deep Dive, signing off.